Hey guys, so today I'll be reviewing the fifth movie of the Fast and Furious in the Fast and Furious franchise. It's called Fast and Furious 5. Um, so basically, the producer, his name was Justin Lin, and how he wanted to set aside Fast and Furious franchise was the first kind of like four movies be more racing and like street racing and all this rather than actually having like crazy action. So when the fifth movie came around, he had notice of Dwayne Johnson wanting to be part of the production. So Dwayne Johnson being a big man and big name himself, that was a great kind of like addition to the whole movie. So basically having him on the production of Fast and Furious 5 made it more of like a heist movie. So really Fast and Furious 5 was kind of like the beginning of like transitioning from street race over to heist action, fighting, robbery, all this type of movie. Because the films after Fast and Furious 5, which is the sixth, seventh, eighth one, is basically all kind of narrowing closer to Fast and Furious 5, where it's like more heist than actual street racing. The street racing was kind of the first two, three, or four movie, not really. And the only reason why they switched it over to the heist and action and all this was they wanted to basically connect it with a broader, I guess, viewers that didn't really enjoy too much kind of like NASCAR racing or like street racing so much. Then they could maybe watch this newer film and then maybe connect with it more, because it's more of like higher intensity fighting, guns, stuff that like action movies really have. So basically, the whole point of the film, starting from the very beginning, was that Dominic Toretto, which is played by Vin Diesel, he's kind of like the alpha male, really, of the whole group. He was sentenced to 25 years of life in prison, and that actually left off of the fourth movie, because the fourth movie, he was basically arrested at the very end, and then it pictured over to the fifth film, really. And O'Connor, which is played by Paul Walker, him and Mia, they both basically went on a little hijack kind of like mission to like escape them off of a prison bus when they were on the highway. So basically, right off the bat from the very beginning, we can obviously tell that there's a huge connection, and like family means everything to them, because they do whatever they can to have each other's back, even if that means breaking someone out of jail. So after they broke him out of jail, they get a call from Vin Diesel's, well, not Vin Diesel, but Dominic Toretto, which is played by Vin Diesel. Dominic Toretto's brother, his name is Vincent, and he was talking about a mission basically to rob money from one of the most corrupt businessmen in all of Rio de Janeiro. And basically the end result was $100 million prize if they can somehow pull off the mission and escape alive somehow. And I feel like it was kind of stereotypical with the fifth movie being based off in Rio de Janeiro, just because there was a lot of drug trafficking and like illegal money trafficking scenes. And I feel like having it be in Rio de Janeiro, it is kind of stereotypical in a way, because that's kind of where you see a lot of this stuff happen. But I guess it makes sense in that, where they would have to do it in Rio de Janeiro. Plus, it kind of changed like culturally, because the first four films was kind of based, well, besides the third one was in Tokyo, but the first, second, and fourth one was all in the US. So having the fifth film kind of be filmed in actual like Rio de Janeiro, it was definitely like a culture change, because each scene you can tell everyone was dressed differently. They all spoke Portuguese, and it was just kind of like, it was kind of unique in a way. So back to what I was saying about the whole mission, and basically throughout the film, O'Connor's wife, she told everyone that she was basically pregnant and that they were expecting to have a child. And with that being in mind, they don't actually have any stable job because they still are criminals in a way, because they broke Dominic Toretto out of the jail. So they were all basically wanted. They were expecting a kid, and then they are also kind of on the run in Rio de Janeiro. So basically, the mission that was presented to them was kind of their last option, and they were basically talking about how this one last mission is our ride or die, and once we complete the mission, we can escape free and then not have to worry about anything ever again. And that basically, it made me personally feel like the fifth movie was going to be the end all, just like after the movie there's no more Fast and Furious. But you know, Justin Lin always throws curveballs at us and everything like that. So basically, fast forward a little bit, we are introduced to Hobbs, Luke Hobbs, which is played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And as everyone knows, he is 6'4". He's beefed up to the freaking veins. He roided like crazy. We all know he is an amazing actor, but his persona that he brings to the whole film just kind of takes it up like 5 notches, because we already had Dominic Toretto, which is played by Vin Diesel, which is also a beefy, big, bald man. And then now we add in another beefy, big, bald man to the group. You kind of see how both guys throughout the film try to fight for dominance and kind of assert their alphaness in a way throughout the film. And basically having Luke Hobbs, which is played by Dwayne Johnson again, like I said, having him in the film, his whole role was to basically find the fugitives and then bring them in. So he was basically tracking Dominic Toretto, O'Connor and his wife, and Vincent, and he was trying to bring them all to justice because he is played as a cop in the film. So that was basically his role, was to kind of bring them to justice and make an arrest on them. But he is from the US, so him and his whole team that he's bringing, they're gonna have to travel all the way to Brazil, which is very, very far from home. And then that kind of plays in not really their favor, but plays in Dominic Toretto's favor, because there's a scene where Luke Hobbs bust Dominic Toretto and basically told him that he's about to bring him in, but everyone around them basically were family members and they just didn't agree with that, and they all started taking out their guns and pointing it at Luke Hobbs and his whole team. So they basically had to abandon that. So basically, I feel like his role kind of is played as like a villain in a way, because we see Dominic Toretto being the lead role, and then we all want him to basically complete the mission and then do what's good or what's best for his family. But there's also Luke Hobbs in the way, so we can, I guess, assume that he is more of the villain type of role. So let's fast forward to, let's talk about the action. So basically the action was over the top. I think it was amazing, but then again there were some scenes which they use a lot of CGI, and I thought it was kind of unrealistic in a way, with all these like cars flipping to where it just doesn't make any sense. For example, in the beginning of the film, basically the beginning of the film, they were hijacking the bus, and there was a scene where this kind of like Mustang was driving in front of this bus, and it stopped out of nowhere, and the bus hit the car, and somehow the bus flipped, but the car didn't move, which I thought was just ridiculous, because we all know a bus is way heavier than a car. So I just thought little scenes like that kind of made the film a little bit not too believable in a way. So that kind of was the downside about it, but everything else was, I think, was top notch. Um, there was a fight scene between Dominic Toretto, which is Vin Diesel, and Luke Hobbs, which is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And it was basically like Godzilla and King Kong. They were just going at it. Basically, Luke Hobbs found Dominic Toretto because he set a chip into his car. He found him, busted him, and he actually slammed his police truck into Dominic Toretto's car. And then the first line that Dominic Toretto says, which I think is, in my opinion, the most badass thing you could say, is, "You just made a huge mistake." And basically, them two, they just go at it and they just fight each other to almost nearly the death, really. So basically, my overall review, I definitely recommend the film, just because it's like my type of film, and I love high action and high intense movie with a little bit of racing, not too much, but it's more of like car action type. And I give it 9.5 out of 10, just because it would be a 10 out of 10 if the CGI, like I just said earlier, wasn't so, I guess, fake and unrealistic in a way. And basically, Justin Lin, he hits another banger again. He's an amazing producer, and he's one of the best at making action film. So the overall film had $625 million in profit. So basically, we can all tell that it was like a huge film, and it was a huge success. That's why the franchise has been going on for so long, because not many franchise has 8 films in it, which is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, that basically wraps up kind of my overall opinion and my overall review of the movie Fast 5, which is also known as Fast and Furious 5. And I'll catch you guys later.